What's going on, guys, and welcome to This Week in the Shop, where we sit down and talk about weird or interesting things that happened inside the dealer shop throughout the week. Now, we're going to do a big talking point here on a new engine. And from the title, however, I titled this thing, Quitting My Job Because of an Engine, or This Engine is Making Me Quit My Job. Something along those lines. Unfortunately, Stellantis, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, Fiat, Renault, whatever we want to call this company this month, announced a new four-cylinder turbocharged engine. It's bigger, better, greater than all the others. And all of us technicians there in the dealership were a little bit worried, and then more information came out on this thing, and we all just went, oh my goodness, we are in for an absolute nightmare. Let's talk about some of these talking points on this new Hurricane four-cylinder. Even though the Hurricane is the six-cylinder, why the same name on a four-cylinder when it's different engines? I don't really know, but I guess I don't really care. So, what's the big issue with these four-cylinder turbo engines? Now, this is not just Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge. I've got a good buddy that is a I've got a good buddy that is a GM technician, and they've also got their high-strung turbocharged four-cylinders, and I hear a lot of the same issues with theirs. But all of these manufacturers making smaller and smaller and smaller displacement engines while turning the boost up and turning the power up for, power, fuel efficiency, CAFE numbers, all these different things. It just doesn't seem to work terribly well in the real world setting. Again, high-strung four-cylinder, that's kind of the term that we all think of here. All of these small displacement motors that have the boost, in this case of the Hurricane four-cylinder, 35 pounds of boost on this little 2-liter turbo. Now, you tuner guys are going, oh, that's nothing. I've got my built Volkswagen making, big, huge, crazy power numbers. Yes, absolutely. But you've got good parts, good head studs, all these strong aftermarket parts, and the factories has robots throwing stuff together, and here we are. So what are some of the big things with this motor? 2 spark plugs per cylinder, which sure, a Hemi has 2 spark plugs per cylinder, so who cares? Yeah, maintenance costs a little bit more, but that's not really that big of a deal at the end of the day. The 12.1 compression ratio, which is relatively high, and definitely high for a 35 foot-pound or a 35 pounds of boost engine. Now, keep in mind, I am probably maybe assuming or sure that this motor is going to then require premium fuel, which, yeah, who cares? It's a few dollars more per tank. It's not that big of a deal. But what do 99% of people, when they pull up to the gas pump, put in? They go over to the cheap button, they put the regular in, which you're then putting 87 octane into your 12-to-1 compression ratio, 35 pounds of boost turbo four-cylinder, which is not going to be happy with pre-detonation and knock and all of that. Now on to getting that fuel into the cylinders. Not only do we have direct inject, which again is absolutely nothing new. We've got a low pressure pump in the fuel tank. We've got a high pressure pump typically bolted to the back of the engine, ran off the cam or whatever. Then bumping the pressure up to feed direct injectors that are bolted into the cylinder head typically, and those fire directly into the combustion chamber. But we also have port fuel injectors that are more traditional, that spray typically in the intake runners into the motor. And now you're going, well, yeah, they got to do all these cool things to make more power and to make smoother power delivery and all the above. And sure, I absolutely agree with you, but I keep thinking back to the serviceability and cost to repair. When these engines are out of warranty, out of your 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty, or your 5-year, 60, or whatever warranty they will have when they come out, it's going to be you, the consumer, that is footing the bill for, you know, injector replacement or a high pressure pump and high pressure fuel pump replacement or the port fuel injectors, or, you know, it's just, there's a lot of things that ends up costing the customer when these high-strung 4-cylinders have issues. Again, with our current 2-liter turbo engine, we have quite a few issues with, you know, head gasket issues, oil and coolant issues, oil leak issues, coolant leak issues. And again, not that those issues aren't an issue with our 3.6 liter, but the serviceability and the ease to repair. You've got to think about that. No motor is without issue, but how easy it is for your average mechanic or your dealer mechanic or your home DIYer to be doing these repairs. A 3.6 liter V6, yes, it's flawed and has issues, but you can do all those repairs in a few hours. It is pretty darn simple to tear down, to take apart, to do head gaskets even, versus that 2-liter turbo, which is an absolute nightmare. You've got, you know, all these direct injectors with one-time seal. You've just got so much more to take apart to try to repair those engines. So again, all I can think about in my technician mind is the ease of repair and cost to repair when those vehicles are then out of warranty. What are some other things that are interesting that I am terrified about? Electric water pump. Why? Just put it on a belt, please. We don't need any more electric things that can fail. When your electric water pump fails because the electric motor died or the fuse blew or whatever, guess what's going to overheat and have a failure? Yeah, that's your engine. So not only do we need to worry about your electric water pump leaking coolant, we also now need to worry about the electric water pump not working because the electric motor died. So that's something that we're going to run into. Maybe not, but I worry we'll have electric water pump issues. Another electric thing that probably really didn't need to be electric, an electric cam phaser in place of our mechanical cam phasers, which yes, still have an electric actuator, but they're oil fed versus a darn electric phaser. But I guess that is a little less of an issue to replace when that thing goes bad, and it is a little less detrimental for engine operation, or at least it overheating and killing itself. So guys, I'm sure I just sound like a, you know, person crying about all this new technology, but man, I'm unfortunately the one that has to be there to work on, attempt to fix these darn engines, and I'm just having 2-liter turbo nightmares all over again. But I hope I'm wrong, and I hope, you know, in X amount of time when these motors finally show up, I will be on here going, oh my gosh, the new 4-cylinder Hurricane, that is the best thing ever. That electric water pump, man, I'm gonna start adapting that onto all my old stuff, and the, you know, I hope that's what I'm saying, and I hope I am biting my tongue in the future, but I'm nervous I won't be. But again, hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully if you're watching Jeep, you're not too mad I'm talking poorly about this thing, but please make it good so I don't have to fix it for you guys, but we'll see together. Now, up next here, we've got some mice issues of recent here in the shop. Now, as the weather gets colder, the mice and rodents seem to find their way into engine bays. And, you know, yeah, it's probably more of an issue here in the Midwest versus in New York, or well, there's rats in New York. I don't really know what I'm talking about. All I know is we've got mice, we've got rodents that find their way into engine bays. And we had over a few days some massive mouse wiring issues. You know, the vehicle comes in with some sort of electrical issue, whether it be a light on the dash or some things not working, and you start tracing down the issue, and the left rear wheel speed sensor, you know, has a issue, and the mouse has chewed through the darn wiring. That's what you guys can hopefully see here, a wire that is just bare and open. Again, a day or so later, a Pacifica came into the shop with some electrical front end issues. That technician finally pulled the front bumper off and found this absolute mess of wiring. I don't even remember how many wires he had to repair, if it was 20 or 30 wires. It was something ridiculous, all kind of in this one front corner of the bumper. Now, why do rodents like to eat the wiring? I don't know. They just do it to be mean. Maybe they see the multiple colors and get excited. I don't know. If the first wire didn't taste good, why did you go to the next one? Maybe they're hopeful the green wire will taste like apples and the red wire will taste like cherries. I don't even know, but they do it. And they seem to do it repetitively. We have had multiple vehicles that have come in for a wiring repair, left for a few days and come back. And the customer said, hey, my vehicle's having the same issue again. We take the vehicle apart and find the rodent has literally chewed the exact same spot. I remember one van that came in about 3 or 4 times that rodent had chewed through the literal same 2 wires multiple times in like a couple of weeks span. Now, I think we ended up smearing like wheel bearing grease or something all over that wiring area just to try to deter it, and it kind of never came back again. So there's a whole numerous things you can try to do to deter mice and rodents, but man, they seem to be pretty darn resilient. Now, we often will find mouse houses, whether that be in an airbox or in an engine bay. You know, they've torn up some of the engine hood insulation or the firewall insulation and made themselves a nice little nest. And yeah, you open the hood, you grab it out, you throw it in the trash can. We had a Pacifica in for some electric issues, and that technician finally opened up the hood and saw this. This was an absolute mouse palace, a hotel, a Hilton. I don't know what brand, what accommodations it had, but it was ridiculous. From the picture, you can just see the massive amount of, you know, leaves and sticks, and there was a little bed area underneath the engine cover. It was a very nice house that he had to very rudely tear apart and get this vehicle fixed up back for the road. But that was a packed engine bay. Thank goodness the vehicle didn't have a fire as it drove into the dealership that day, but that was absolutely crazy. And yeah, that's probably the worst case of a mouse house or mouse hotel that I have seen. Next thing, kind of a fun little bonus of being a mechanic. Doesn't even matter if you're a dealership mechanic, free tools occasionally find their way into your stall, into your life, whether that be under the hood, on the frame rails. I mean, you can find things anywhere on vehicles from previous technicians. Now, unfortunately, normally it's always like cheap, crummy tools that you really kind of don't even want or need, but occasionally you'll find some really good things. I found a nice snap-on 1/4-inch ratchet with like an extension and a little 8mm socket. That was probably my coolest score up until today. I was underneath a truck and found a Milwaukee M12 flashlight that was magnetized up under a truck. Lord knows how long ago. It was in good shape, so it couldn't have been too bad. But the battery was dead. I was able to charge the battery. Now I've got a Milwaukee light. So occasionally some cool things show up. Now this truck was bought at auction. So, I mean, it was a recent auction buy that the guy brought in. So, I mean, who knows where along the line it got left there. But occasionally, again, you do find cool things that have fallen down in an engine bay, and they're now in your hands. So that's always kind of fun. So like I said, cool Milwaukee light that I picked up today, or that fell into my stall. Now, last but not least, if you've been on this channel for any amount of time, you know how much I am a stickler on some OEM parts. One thing I've harped on multiple times about OEM thermostats because they have issues with aftermarket ones. Another thing I'm really kind of a stickler on is OEM spark plugs. I've had a lot of our Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge stuff over the years be very finicky with goofy, weird aftermarket spark plugs causing issues, whether that be a, you know, E3 Diamond Fire Super Triple spark plug that it really just needs a normal copper spark plug in it, or what have you. Again, I'm always attempting, if I can, to put a OEM spark plug in a vehicle, but oftentimes that OEM spark plug is, outrageously expensive because it has Ford on it or Mopar on it or whatever. But here recently, Buddy and I were putting together a Jeep Wrangler JK that he just picked up, and the OEM spark plugs were $30 a piece for those Iridium, Champion Iridium spark plugs. Again, that's what I want to put in the thing so it's all correct and happy. But oftentimes, if you've got that factory part number for, say, that spark plug, and you can then cross that part number with O'Reilly's or AutoZone or any of your aftermarket parts places, you can pick up the factory spark plug, in this case a Champion SPI 24 yada yada yada, the exact same spark plug from O'Reilly's or AutoZone, and that thing was only $10 instead of $30 a piece because it wasn't in a nice Mopar box and it didn't have the Mopar insignia there on each spark plug. So again, don't just assume you don't want to spend the crazy expensive price of a dealership part. In this case, you can often, cross-reference, find a part, find the literal exact same Champion boxed spark plug at O'Reilly's, at AutoZone, at your local auto parts store, and still get a factory part in your vehicle for a third of the price. So I don't know. Don't just go out there and look for the cheapest thing on Rock Auto, because it oftentimes will end up back in my stall at the dealership with an issue, and I've got to tell you, hey, you need those factory spark plugs you should have put in the first time because those aftermarket ones are now causing issues and I've got to fix it. So just something to think about, something to keep in mind as you're doing those DIY repairs and fixes on your own vehicle. So guys, that's going to do it for today, and I'm very, very hopeful I am totally wrong on this new engine, and it's amazing, and I want to get rid of the Camaro with the supercharged V8 and the TRX with the supercharged V8 and the Wrangler with the V8 and get everything swapped over to a Hurricane 4-cylinder because it's so good and it gets 50 miles to the gallon and it never has issues. I'm going to speak this into reality and it will be a great engine. But in case it's not, I'll probably still be at the darn dealership working on it. So if you buy one, please don't bring it to me because I don't want to have to fix it under warranty. But if you do, I guess I'll be here. And guys, as always, thanks for coming out and talking about Mopar things on This Week in the Shop. And hopefully I'll see you a little bit sooner than this time from the last episode. So guys, as always, thanks for watching and we'll catch you guys next time.